What is the market for Baker Mayfield? He's putting out this message like, are you sure it's better somewhere else? Is the grass greener? Let's dig in, guys. Because, you know, Baker Mayfield's value is nebulous. Kyle, what do you make of it?
It's complicated. It's very complicated. And this is what I want to put out there, because right now Baker's stock is low. Never mind the Instagram post, never mind the football stock is low. But I want to look at his most important play from the 2021 season. This is the play that I take away from his entire year. It's all the way back week 2. They're playing the Texans. He's going to throw an interception. And in like true Baker devil-may-care style, he launches himself at the guy, makes the tackle, and injures himself pretty severely in his non-throw shot. That was week 2. Week 2 of 17 games. I don't think Baker Mayfield was ever the same after this play. After that, I think all season long it bothered him and it hurt his football. That's fine. That's the game. It's not an excuse. But I think he is a much better quarterback on the field than he was last year. I think if I'm looking right now, if I'm a fan of one of these teams, do I want Baker? I'm looking at all these suitors and all these potential single quarterbacks out there. I think he is significantly more talented than Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's significantly more motivated than Matt Ryan, just to their different points of their career. I think there's a huge upside. Now, you got to make sure that I'm right and that last year's football wasn't great because of the injury. And you got to make sure that you want to bring in a guy who is sort of a dollar store Brett Favre gunslinger. I personally think that if all the stuff with Baker and Cleveland had transpired a little bit earlier, I think Baker would be a Washington Commander right now. I really do. The question is, will he become a Colt? Will he become a Saint? I like him. I like the ride. I can't quit Baker. I like the high end. I like the talents. And I genuinely think he is much better than what he put on the field last year. And we all know nobody burns like him and nobody tracks the media's comments like him. Healthy shoulder, new team. Everybody thinks you suck. I like that Baker a lot. And I think the market will show that. Now, Tom, I know the finances are a little complicated, but I like the football as I look forward to next year.
Well, Kyle, I'll say this. I think in our business of the NFL, timing, we talked about it with Devontae Adams. Timing is everything, right? If you have suitors, if you're as hot as you've said he is, people will be banging down the door at Cleveland to get him. Cleveland probably wouldn't have been in that situation with Deshaun Watson. And so I think what we've seen over the last couple years hasn't been the best Baker. People go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers victory where they scored 45 points. A lot of those points came off of short fields because of turnovers, screens, and running the football. And so as much as a lot of people love Baker for his attitude, I'm strictly a guy about production. And when you watch his production, Odell Beckham didn't do well there. He goes to the Rams, plays well, right? So there's certain situations about Baker Mayfield that I like and then that I dislike. And so the part that I dislike is the letter part of it, right? Matt Ryan did write a letter, even though Atlanta was courting Deshaun Watson. And some of those things, they just come into play. They just, as a player in that locker room, I just don't know how that's going to build if we don't play well. Is he going to be a me guy? Or is he going to point fingers? We saw the Duke Johnson situation on Twitter unfold when he said, I think he said, you need to get on it. You're either in your train, you're on this train or you're not, right? Like those type of things become personal. And so for me, if you're playing well, I'm okay with that. But if you've been playing like you have the last couple years, it becomes an issue.
The starting point for trade negotiations with all these guys we're talking about is pretty much the same, whether it's Matt Ryan or Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo. Every team trading a player like that is looking for a second-round draft pick and maybe something more. The thing is, as this has evolved and as seats have kind of gotten taken here, we've gone from a bit of a seller's market to more of a buyer's market. In other words, the Colts, everybody knows that they need a quarterback, but you've got those guys available. You've got Marcus Mariota, who's a free agent. You got guys like Andy Dalton, who's a free agent. The Colts don't need to go all in and make another big trade. They can kind of let this thing come to them a little bit and potentially get value. So specifically to Baker Mayfield, he's coming off an injury-plagued year, as you guys mentioned. 2020, he played at a really high level, led them to their first playoff win in like 26 years. He made clear when they went after Deshaun Watson that he wanted out. He wanted a fresh start someplace else. It's apparent now he's going to get that. But the entire league knows that the Browns, in all likelihood, have to trade him. He also has an $18.8 million salary. Cleveland potentially may have to eat some of that money in order to move him for value here. Mayfield would like to be an Indianapolis Colt. Is that where he's actually going to end up? It depends in part on all these other moving pieces and where some of these other quarterbacks may go and when.
He's expensive, too. The Colts can afford him. Ballard doesn't like to spend money. Baker Mayfield has not done himself any favors. The market can't be booming for him because of what he looked like on the field the past year. I think it helps him that there are a lot of teams that want to upgrade at quarterback or have needs. The Colts, the Saints, the Seahawks, the Panthers, all looking, so that sort of helps him. I think his market is below Jimmy Garoppolo. I would much rather have him from a winning perspective. I know he's coming off an injury. That's the only thing that I sort of look at as a problem there. But his record, the fact that he distinguished himself as an adult in the way he handled the Trey Lance situation as a teammate. Teammates all love him. They speak about him. I think that matters when you're pitting the two against each other and trying to make a decision. Hell, Jameis might have been a better option. Jameis last year was 5-2. He took care of the football, combined with the fact that his price tag is significantly less than this $18 million that Tom Pelissero was talking about for Baker. I think that all matters. There's intriguing candidates. There is a potential market there for trades, too. You look at a guy like Jordan Love. What's up with him? There's the Tyler Huntley of it all. When you're looking at guys, I think there's intrigue. We're talking about upside with them as well. He did not help himself out. And then there's this powder keg aspect to him that you have to weigh in and stomach as well. So he'll find a place to play. It's definitely something to keep our eyes on. I'll ask you, Kyle, from like a football perspective, why Baker over Jimmy?
Well, I look at it a couple ways. The Indianapolis Colts make it really fascinating. If it was just any other suitor who just needs a quarterback, like any other, that's fine. The Colts have this really loaded thing where they're like, we're getting made fun of and we're looking at ourselves in the mirror and saying every single year we have a different quarterback. This is kind of a joke now. We need to figure out some kind of stability. So is Baker the answer of the guy? Probably not. And then the other prism that I think it's interesting to look through is the way we started the show talking about Deshaun Watson and why the Browns did what they did to get him. It's like, you got to arm up right now. And MJD referenced Daniel Jeremiah's take is that the whole league watched Bills versus Chiefs in the playoffs and said, we got nothing unless we got an absolute killer at quarterback. So who is that? Can they compete in the AFC with Jimmy Garoppolo or Matt Ryan or Jameis or Baker? There might be a sense in the AFC and certainly with the Colts about we just need to go big. Maybe it's a risk and maybe it's not the best fit. Who has the highest ceiling? Who can we hone and say, oh my God, one day we can put up 40 points? And I remember the game that Baker went on Monday night against Lamar, the infamous game when Lamar had cramps. Baker's going back and forth, and it was this great showcase. And it was like, wow, this could be the Baker Mayfield we get. If you believe in that and you're the Colts and saying we also need a quarterback of mass destruction who's a number one overall pick, maybe that's the reason you go for him, just by ceiling, character and injury be damned.